Fight fans, welcome back.
114, even a draw. The decision is a majority draw.
Are you open to immediate rematch?
In my contract, immediate rematch was signed. I signed for the immediate rematch when I signed.
I'm thinking July.
I'm thinking July for sure.
The rematch is officially happening, but was it ever really in doubt? After their highly controversial draw, Gervonta, Tank Davis, and Lamont Roach Jr. have just signed a contract to run it back. But fans are already questioning if this fight will settle anything or just spark more controversy. The first fight left fans outraged after Davis took a knee in round 9 without a count, a moment that many believe robbed Roach of a rightful win. The backlash was immediate, and with the boxing world demanding justice.
Hopefully we could get it before, nah, it probably won't be this year.
Is that the one you want next?
Rematch talks went into overdrive. Now, with the fight set to happen, all eyes are on Davis. Will he prove his dominance? Or was Roach truly the better man that night? One thing is certain, with unfinished business, bad blood, and massive pressure on both fighters, this rematch isn't just about the belt anymore. It's about legacy, redemption, and shutting down the controversy for good. Or will it?
Tank want a rematch. Let me know now. Do you want to fight Tank again? He said he open to do a rematch. Do you want to fight Tank
100%. It's only a matter of time. We're going to fight.
The final bell rang. Tension filled the Barclays Center. The crowd braced for the scorecards, expecting either a razor-close win for one fighter or a possible upset. Instead, the announcement stunned the arena. Majority draw. One judge had it 115 to 113 for Davis, while the other two scored it 114 to 114. Neither man had a definitive claim to victory, and that meant one thing: unfinished business. Immediately after the fight, talk of a rematch began circulating. Fighters, analysts, and even promoters all agreed.
We're going to fight again. It's just whenever the fight going to happen.
So it's going to happen?
It's going to happen.
Okay. They said they want it in New York again. Do you want to fight again in the Barclays Center?
This rivalry isn't over. Roach Jr., still fuming over what he believed was a win stolen from him, wasted no time in calling for a second fight. His team believes this is an inevitable rematch, and according to his promoter, Gary Jonas, negotiations are already at an advanced stage. This is happening. It's basically a done deal, Jonas said, adding that both fighters want the opportunity to settle the score once and for all. For Roach, the rematch is a chance to prove that his performance wasn't a fluke. He entered as an underdog but walked out with newfound respect, and now he's determined to capitalize on that momentum. But for Davis, this fight is about reclaiming his dominance. The criticism following this fight has been louder than ever, with many questioning his focus, conditioning, and overall preparation. If Davis wants to silence the doubters, he has no choice but to step back into the ring and make a statement.
For me, Tank Davis is fighting a minus 1600 as your main event odds is crazy to me, dude. That's crazy. That underdog lived up to the hype. He ended up, overperforming. Lamont.
With both fighters pushing for a July 2025 showdown, the rematch is shaping up to be even bigger, more personal, and far more intense than the first fight. But this time, there will be no room for doubt. Only one man will leave with his hand raised. The 9th round was supposed to be just another chapter in a highly competitive fight. Instead, it became the single most talked about moment of the entire night, the moment that could have changed the course of the fight and possibly handed Lamont Roach Jr. the biggest victory of his career. As the round progressed, Roach found his rhythm, landing crisp combinations and keeping Davis off balance. Then came the punch that changed everything. A sharp, clean jab landed flush on Davis's chin, and within a split second, he dropped to a knee. The Barclays Center erupted in shock. Was this a knockdown? Did the undefeated power puncher just get sat down by a precision shot from an underdog? But before the crowd could process what had happened, referee Steve Willis waved it off. No knockdown was called. No count was given.
Roach, credit to him, all this other stuff. And it took some politics to keep Davis as champion. You ever see guys getting the referee their own fight? Dude, anybody else takes that knee, you're getting counted, bro. The referee...
Davis was allowed to get back up with zero consequences. Roach's corner exploded in frustration, while fans inside the arena immediately began booing the call. Had the referee ruled a knockdown, Roach would have been credited with a 10-8 round, a crucial shift in the scorecards. Given how razor-close the fight was, that decision alone could have tipped the balance in Roach's favor, possibly leading to a victory instead of a draw. Instead, the judges scored the round as a 10-9 for Roach, treating it as a normal round instead of one where Davis was visibly put on the canvas. The backlash was swift. Boxing analysts, journalists, and fighters flooded social media, calling the referee's decision a critical mistake.
Actually, his instinct, if you watch that, the referee's instinct was to count. If you notice, Steve Willis started counting, and then he looked at the timekeeper outside the ring, wasn't counting, and he stopped counting. So you get to call your own time.
Even the New York State Athletic Commission, NYSAC, was forced to respond, admitting that Willis may have made an error in judgment. However, they refused to overturn the result, stating that judges' decisions are final and cannot be changed post-fight. The controversy didn't stop there. Many began questioning Davis's intentions. Did he take a knee strategically to buy time, recover, and disrupt Roach's momentum? Or was he genuinely hurt from the jab? Regardless of intent, the damage was done. That one moment would define the fight, fueling immediate calls for a rematch. As soon as the final bell rang and the scorecards were announced, the internet exploded with reactions. Fans, analysts, and fighters all had one common question. How was that knee not a knockdown? ESPN analysts immediately called foul on the ruling, with many suggesting that boxing politics played a role in protecting Davis. Some pointed out that the referee's decision was questionable at best, while others went as far as calling it a blatant robbery.
I'll give you my picks on 3 fights taking place Saturday night at the Barclays Center in New York City between Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach. Gary Russell versus Jose Valenzuela.
Prominent ESPN commentator Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back. On a live post-fight breakdown, he stated, "I don't care who you are. When you take a knee after getting hit clean, that's a knockdown."
And Sandor Martin versus Alberto Puello. Gervonta Davis uses knock somebody out inside of 85 punches because he's clearly capable of that.
Lamont Roach Jr. put on a special performance tonight, and that knee should have been ruled accordingly. This changes the entire conversation about this fight. And let me tell you something. If this rematch happens, Roach is coming in with a point to prove, and Tank better be ready.
But I just see this as being a kind of fight where he's going to have to run him down. He's going to have to walk him down, rather, and he's going to have to throw some punches before he ultimately catches him. And that's how I view it. So I'm going to go with more on this particular one. Next up.
Boxing fans echoed the outrage, flooding social media with reactions. One of the loudest voices was popular boxing Twitter personality Leonardus Maximus IV, who tweeted, "Davis took a clean shot, and the ref let him off the hook. If that's any other fighter, it's a knockdown. Absolute joke. Roach won that fight." Other notable voices in the boxing world also chimed in. Retired champion Timothy Bradley weighed in on the controversy, stating, "Listen, I've seen a lot in this sport, but I don't know how you let that slide. That's a knockdown all day, and it changed the fight."
Right. The first one we saw was he stood alone. He stood alone on the platform. He did the whole conference by himself, right? Press tour by himself, and he did.
Lamont Roach should be furious. Even former world champions took to social media to criticize the call. One fighter, who asked to remain anonymous, texted a well-known boxing journalist, "If that's me in the ring, I'm getting counted." Plain and simple. But when you're a superstar in boxing, the rules start to look a little different, don't they? The conversation wasn't just about the fight. It became a larger discussion about boxing's history of controversial officiating. Many fans pointed out similar instances where questionable refereeing decisions benefited high-profile fighters. As the dust settles, the outrage isn't fading. Instead, it's fueling anticipation for the rematch. Roach now has a growing army of supporters who believe he was robbed of a victory, while Davis has even more pressure to prove that he didn't get a gift decision. The stage is set for an even bigger fight, and this time, all eyes will be on one thing: fairness.
This thing, you know what I'm saying? I respect a man that can stand on his own 2 feet, for real. But this one right here, having that picture leak, him looking real zesty, and not giving a fuck.
After the fight, Gervonta Tank Davis wasted no time addressing the controversy. He didn't deny taking a knee, but he insisted that it had nothing to do with the punch. Instead, he claimed something unexpected caused the moment. His eyes were burning. According to Davis, 2 days before the fight, he underwent a hair treatment that left behind residue from grease and other products. As the fight progressed, sweat mixed with the treatment chemicals, creating an unbearable burning sensation in his eyes. By the 9th round, he says, the irritation became too much to handle, forcing him to take a knee just to clear his vision. Davis explained his side in an Instagram live session shortly after the fight. "Man, I couldn't see for a second. My eyes were burning bad. That's why I took that knee. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't rocked. Nothing like that. I just needed a second. But the ref knew what was up, His explanation sparked immediate backlash. Was this a legitimate reason, or just damage control?
Woo! Trying to tell y'all, my man is on a new level. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know that song? We on a new level. I'm on a new level. I'm on a new level. Yes.
Many fans weren't buying it. Critics pointed out that fighters endure far worse conditions in the ring. Bleeding cuts, swollen eyes, and even broken hands. Yet they rarely take a knee unless truly hurt. Some argued that if Davis's eyes were really that affected, his team should have been aware of the issue before the fight. Others accused him of grasping for an excuse to avoid admitting Roach's jab legitimately forced him down. ESPN's Max Kellerman reacted with skepticism, saying, "Look, if Tank's vision was really compromised, why didn't he mention it between rounds? Why didn't his corner do anything? It's just not adding up for me. Fighters push through worse all the time. A burning sensation doesn't just make you drop to a knee unless you're looking for an out."
You know, earlier in the fight, if you saw that shoulder barge that Tank did to Roach in the clinch, he didn't get a warning, but Roach's reaction got the warning. This is the politics we're dealing with. You keep doing this, you're looking at...
Some analysts gave Davis the benefit of the doubt. Former champion Sean Porter suggested that if Tank was truly unable to see, taking a knee was the safest move. If his eyes were on fire, I get it. That's not something you want to risk in the middle of a fight. But I'll say this. If he's blaming hair grease, then he better make sure this doesn't happen again in the rematch. Regardless of whether fans believed Davis's explanation, one thing was clear. This excuse wasn't going to erase the controversy. Roach and his team were still fuming, and the demand for an immediate rematch was growing louder by the day. Before stepping into the ring with Gervonta Davis, Lamont Roach Jr. was seen as an afterthought. He was a respected fighter, sure, but few believed he had the skills to truly trouble Davis, let alone take him to a draw. But by the time the final bell rang,
short-term money and long-term destruction of a sport.
He take a knee. You need to lose like 10-8 that round at least.
The world saw Roach in a different light. He didn't just survive against one of the most feared punchers in the sport. He outboxed him in key moments. His sharp footwork, calculated pressure, and unwavering composure revealed cracks in Davis's game that many had never noticed before. One of the biggest takeaways from the fight, Davis's jab, or lack of one. Roach and his team had clearly studied Tank's weaknesses. Instead of engaging in reckless exchanges, Roach forced Davis to fight at his pace, neutralizing his power by controlling distance with his own jab.
And plus the corner go up and put a towel in the face. That's a disqualification for sure.
Boxing analyst Andre Ward praised Roach's performance, saying, "What Roach did tonight was expose a fundamental flaw in Davis's game. If you take away his explosive counters and force him to rely on his jab, he struggles." And that's exactly what Roach did for large portions of the fight. Roach himself was vocal about the result. Speaking to reporters post-fight, he made his stance clear. "I should have won this fight. Y'all saw it. I put him on a knee, and they didn't call it. I landed the sharper shots. I controlled the pace. I made him look uncomfortable. That rematch, that's mine to take. I'm coming for everything."
It wasn't a braid. It wasn't oil in his eye. Tank got peppered. Jab, jab, cross. Listen to Lamont Roach talk about when he knocked Tank down in the 9th.
Fans and analysts agreed that the rematch could be even more dangerous for Davis. Roach had proven he belonged at the elite level, and with a full fight of experience against Tank under his belt, many believed he could make even more adjustments to dominate the second fight. His stock skyrocketed overnight. Before this fight, Roach was a well-regarded contender. Now, he's a legitimate threat in the division, a man who pushed Tank to the limit and left millions debating whether he should have won outright. With his confidence at an all-time high and the entire boxing world backing him, Roach is entering the rematch not just as a challenger, but as a man who already proved he can beat Davis. And this time, he's ready to make sure the judges don't have a say in the outcome.
And the 10-8 wasn't called. Even wild, Lamont Roach is yelling at the ref.
Knockdown that wasn't in round number 9. Gervonta Davis.
One of the most puzzling aspects of the fight wasn't just Gervonta Davis's controversial knee. It was his mindset throughout the bout. From the opening bell, something seemed off about Tank. His usual laser-focused intensity was missing, and at times, it looked like he was more interested in arguing than executing his game plan. A telling moment came midway through the fight when Davis began jawing at Roach between exchanges, even smirking and shaking his head at punches that clearly landed. While this is something Tank has done before, this time, It felt different, almost like he was trying to convince himself that he was in control rather than actually proving it. Even more concerning, his corner struggled to get through to him. During the late rounds, Davis's trainers, including veteran coach Barry Hunter,
outcome of the fight, and if you thought that them knowing each other and growing up together contributed to the performance.
Yes and no.
Were heard giving him direct instructions, yet Tank seemed distracted, disengaged, or outright confused. At one point between rounds, his team had to remind him how many rounds were left. This raised serious questions about whether he was mentally locked in or if outside distractions leading up to the fight had taken their toll. Hunter later spoke about Davis's struggles. Tank abandoned his jab, and that let Roach stay in the fight. He gave up control of the ring, let Roach dictate the pace, and then started relying too much on his power shots. That's not how he trained for this fight. Davis's jab, or lack thereof, was a critical issue throughout the night. While Roach consistently pumped his own jab to control range, Tank barely used his. Instead, he kept looking for one big shot to end the fight, something Roach was too smart to allow.
I thought that Tank was boxing early on. I thought we abandoned our jab somewhat in the fight a little bit.
Fighters like Terrence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson even chimed in on social media, questioning why Davis wasn't using one of the most fundamental weapons in boxing. No jab, no game plan. Just head hunting. That ain't gonna work against high IQ fighters, Crawford tweeted. So, what was going on with Tank? Was it overconfidence, poor preparation, or something else? Reports surfaced before the fight that Davis was dealing with personal distractions outside the ring. Some insiders claimed that he was not fully engaged in training camp, missed sessions, and wasn't as sharp as usual. If true, this would explain his lack of urgency, questionable decision-making, and struggles in a fight many expected him to dominate. But excuses won't matter in a rematch. He'll need to come back sharper and more disciplined, or risk losing everything.
But down the stretch, I thought maybe, I believe, 2 or 3 rounds, I can't remember, Calvin, was one of the rounds that...
We needed 3 rounds, and he did.
With controversy surrounding the decision and both fighters believing they should have won, an immediate rematch seems inevitable. Lamont Roach Jr. isn't waiting around. He's already made it clear that he wants the rematch ASAP, targeting July 2025. I want that fight right away. No delays, no politics. Let's run it back, Roach told reporters. The biggest question now is whether Gervonta Davis will agree to it immediately. Davis holds the rematch clause, meaning he gets to decide when and if it happens. If he delays, it could be a sign that his team wants to buy time, make adjustments, and avoid jumping straight into another tough fight. But waiting too long could be dangerous. Boxing analyst Timothy Bradley believes that if Davis doesn't come into the rematch fully focused, Roach could do even more damage next time.
It just went like, he just, like we said, we looked at 3 rounds. Barry was calling out, yo, I need 3. We got 1.
If Tank is locked in next time, he'll be a different monster. But if he comes in distracted like this again, he's getting outworked. And it's not going to be controversial. He'll straight up lose. For Davis, he needs to bring back his jab, focus on fundamentals, and stay disciplined. His raw power alone won't be enough if Roach continues to outbox him. If he's sharper in the rematch, he might look like the dominant Tank everyone expected in the first fight. For Roach, he now has confidence and experience against Davis. He'll likely double down on his jab, movement, and pressure, forcing Tank to fight uncomfortably again. The key for Roach will be not allowing Davis to make major adjustments without countering them. The big question, can Davis bounce back, or will Roach shock the world again? This fight was supposed to be a showcase for Tank, another dominant victory to build his legacy. Instead, it turned into a career-defining moment for Roach and a wake-up call for Davis. If Davis comes into the rematch motivated and locked in, he could silence all doubters and reassert himself as one of boxing's top stars. But if Roach comes back even better and more confident, he could shock the world again, this time leaving no doubt. One thing's for sure, the rematch is a must-watch, and the stakes have never been higher. Alright guys, for the best updates on boxing news, moments, events, and actions, subscribe to Knockout Updates and turn on notifications to never miss out on quality content, and check out our other videos. Until next time, peace out.